All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Westside Community Incubator. Today we have a very inspiring speaker. Her name is as unique as her impact. Her first name is the only one in the world with its spelling. Formerly a practicing psychotherapist, empowering powerful humans live more healed than wounded. She now mentors female founders to thrive in entrepreneurship, earning her the title of the Latina Oprah for helping women reach the top 1% in business. Beyond her love for floral arrangements, vegan tacos, and romantic strolls down the makeup aisle, Zeahlot is an international speaker transforming lives with her words, one talk at a time. Let's all give Zeahlot an outstanding welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elias, for having me here today. All right, ladies, go ahead and help me finish the sentence. What happens in Vegas? And is that what we think marketing is to sell you the experience of a lifetime? Well, it's been working, but the real question here for you is, does that work for you? So I'll open it with this. Today, we're going to talk about sales and marketing, but it's going to be a very, very different conversation because most of the time, here's what happens. Either we learn what we learn from men, we learn what we learn from individuals that may not represent us, have our life stories, have our backgrounds, have similar experience like our mommies and daddies, right? We don't feel seen, we don't feel heard. And as women, it's a very diverse experience. And that being said, that gives me so much joy and pleasure to share with you what I've learned through my own journey, but not only that, to teach you how to fish rather than give you a fish. A lot of places, a lot of individuals that are leading from a place of, let me tell you how to do it, are giving you the fish and say, go ahead and make this happen. Go ahead and make sales. Go ahead and market this. But are they actually helping you understand the psychology behind what it is that you're trying to sell and market? The answer is no. And so let's begin with this real question. The way it's been done in the past doesn't mean you need to do it today that way. That's the beauty of this experience for sales and marketing today. So I practiced as a psychotherapist for over a decade. I saw an amazing amount of women, families, couples. And at the time, my mission was to help as many individuals stay married so we would have better families and better kids growing up. And then I started to realize something. I was selling and marketing something. What was it? It was my main core mission and my main core value, my desire to help the world. And it's never changed, except now I see it in different facets, in different capacities, in different areas of business. And so what happened over the years after I practiced for psychotherapy, I was like, we can apply this to anything, to relationships, to business, to partnerships, anything it is that you desire. So what I'm going to share with you today is the following. So take some notes, put it in your phone, take this with you because it's a golden nugget. When you say to yourself, what am I selling and what am I marketing? You're doing that every single day with everything that you are doing. If you have someone in your life and you're like, you know what, I'm feeling a sandwich today, and they're not, well, guess what, honey? You're selling and you're marketing. You're selling and marketing an idea. But do you understand that that's what you're doing? And that's the psychology behind it, right? And so to open up this conversation, let's start with the following. What is sales, right? What is sales? Does anybody give me a definition or a guess or just shout it out loud? What is sales? What's sales? Yes, somebody that buys something, right? We sold something, okay? So most people, when they think of what a sale is, they think of it in a conceptual term. Dictionary, let me open it up. Let me ask, Chat GPT, let me see what it says. Over time, here's what I've learned, and I'll offer it to you so you can chew on it. Sales for me is a spiritual process. So is marketing. So is business. So is relationships. So it's your foundation and understanding. Do I believe that there's something greater outside of what it is that I'm doing? If the answer is yes, then let's look at a bird's eye view. So when we're looking at it just one-on-one on a daily basis, like, what you trying to do? Oh, I'm trying to sell this. I have a great idea. Let's take it up a notch. What are you doing? Well, I'm trying to create an impact. Let's take it up a notch. Well, I'm trying to change the world. We all know this, Muhammad Gandhi. You want to change the world, you change yourself. But it's first with your thinking and your mindset. Well, if I'm a spiritual being, and anything that I do, that I create, and that I make is also has a spirit and a spiritual sense, how can I see this from the highest perspective possible? And so for me, I think, what has sales been throughout the years? It's confidence. How do you gain confidence with failure after failure after failure? It's small wins. It's learning little by little, how do I get up? There's a Chinese proverb that says, fall 7, get up 8. And it's so powerful to know that, because when there is something that you are selling and nobody's biting, nobody is buying, you have to understand what is the bigger picture here. Eventually, over time, it will happen, but you have to believe in yourself first. Is that conviction? And so sales for me is a spiritual process in which you have dire, utter internal conviction in what it is that you have created, or that you are supporting, that you are backing up, that you know is going to help another human being, another living being, even for that. Some people are selling dog toys. It's our fur friends, right? And so when you understand that sales is much more than just the transactional exchange, then you can see more layers to it. The other one to really, really fully understand as women is that it's an energy exchange. So check this out, because this one was a lesson I was not ready for. I figured, well, the more I sell, the more it'll help. Not necessarily. Volume does not always equal quality. That is so important to understand. So that's one piece of the recipe, right? So the more I sell, the more impact. No, that is not an equal sign. Not always. It can, it's not always true. Here's the other one. Me selling this, me getting behind this and supporting this means that everybody's going to understand the value it has. Wrong. That's not true either, because there's so many people selling things that are absolutely changing the world, and few, if any, are investing in it or buying it, because there's a distinction. Check this one out. They don't understand the difference between an investment and a purchase. Mindset, right? Because you have to understand, what are my values, right? So let's just pretend for a moment I'm a woman, I'm in business, and I just created the most beautiful line of dresses. And all my ladies, they got to wear it because this is it, right? Well, if the woman that I'm pitching, right, in sales term, the woman that I'm letting know, here's what's cooking in my kitchen, and I'm making dresses, and I'm helping women feel confident in what they're wearing, and this is why I'm selling this, doesn't understand the value of the design, of the custom look of the dress, there will be no sale. And even if she does buy it, is it a good exchange of energy? Maybe she just sticks it in her closet and she never wears it. Does that even make sense? And so that's why we have to understand ourselves in sales first and foremost. Is this a good exchange of energy? Do I have conviction for what it is that I'm selling? But number 3, what are my values? Here's a sad fact that I learned over time. I would say a very high percentage of individuals doing commerce, doing business, doing exchanges day to day, they don't even know which end is up with their values. A lot of individuals will go down a list. They'll be given a 60, 70, 80 word list of what values might be, but they don't understand if those values are actually aligned with who they are in that moment. And if so, maybe they've changed over time. I'll give you a case study just to think about. I once mentored a woman that said, I very much value family time. And I said, that's beautiful. That's a lot of women, right? Raise your hands if you feel that family is absolutely a value for you. Okay, beautiful. Here's the thing, that might change over time. And when we explored that, when she went deeper into that, she said, to be honest with you, I actually value self-care and honesty now more than I do family time, because I've learned blank, because I've experienced blank. And so you have every right as a woman doing business to change your values at any time you desire. What you must do, though, to be ethic and moral in business is to let others know. Let them know, put them on notice, and say, hey, listen, as of right now, I've grown this company and it's helping the world, and here's what I'm doing. And now that I have a newborn, now that I have a new responsibility, the quality is going to change into more tech-enabled. You're going to have more contact with my team that is just as valuable as I am. I'm just going to remove myself more. So the value is more my newborn rather than it is I'm going to be front and facing as the CEO, as the founder, as whatever it might be. We've seen this throughout time, even with the brand of celebrities. They change their values, but you want to ask yourself, as a consumer on the other side, do I still align with these values? Maybe they changed by, we're not going to do any more business outside of the US, but in exchange, our quality has gone down in the organic elements. You got to ask yourself, am I okay with that? And so when it's you on the other end and you're selling something, you have to dig deep and ask yourself, I say these are my values, but are these actually my values that I'm aligned with and I'm actually embodying? Women throw that word around a lot, right? In sales and in marketing, like you got to embody it, you got to be it, you got to be that secret sauce. And I love that and I agree with it. The thing that I've realized over time is it's one thing to say it and it's another to do it when you're in hot water or your back is against the wall. So here's when I have found out who I actually truly was and if those values were actually my values that I said I did. It's when I was challenged and I was forced to make a choice. When someone actually said to me and said, but do you actually value that? Do you actually value transparency and honesty? Okay, so then I'm going to challenge you to pull up to this when you're interviewed and tell them, I don't agree with that because that does not support women. So show me that you are of your values. In this day and age, when a lot of individuals are selling things from front to back, just in your face daily, you are pitched. Whether it's an idea, it's a message, it's a color, it's a product. You have to ask yourself, what am I attracted to and why? That's usually going to be the same thing for your clients, for your consumers. And that's where sales and marketing have a baby. So here's what I mean. Sales and marketing, they're siblings, but they're not twins. They're like a Venn diagram. Here's sales and here's marketing. And there's this little tiny overlap in between. And if you can understand what that is, you'll do much better. Because if you don't do well in marketing, you're definitely not going to do well in sales. And if you're killing it in sales, but you're not great at it in marketing, you're going to lag or you're going to start to pull the heavy weight for no reason. If you have flow with both of them, that's when you're going to understand, got it, they go together, they go hand in hand. Okay. So if sales is confidence and conviction, right, and it's a spiritual process, what's marketing? What is marketing? Let's give it a try. What could marketing be? Ooh, you're right onto something. Exactly. It's the pre-sale. Marketing is the here's what's to come, right? And what comes in that? What do we usually do when it comes to marketing? What do we do before that sale hits? We promote. Yes. What else? Build value. What else? Advertising. We build a relationship. That is the key in whatever facet, whatever marketing channel. And when I heard this years back, I was like, what channel am I trying to watch? 58.2? And they're like, no, silly. It means where are you trying to sell your product and how are you building that relationship? And I said, okay, got it. Because there's so many marketing sales, but at the end of the day, let's just talk about it at a basic level so we actually understand it and embrace it. So for me, I've had to ask myself, what is marketing? Marketing to me, more than anything, is a relationship. And the sale is me understanding I'm going to fulfill on that. So if just for a moment you'd imagine that marketing is somebody building hope that you're going to deliver on something, the sale is building that trust that you actually did deliver on that. And that's where a lot of companies, they drop the ball or they miss it because they might promise something, but then there's no delivery on it. And it's like, well, the sales were there, but was the actual outcome? And marketing gets very, very interesting because if we're not clear on who we are, the marketing is not going to work. So here's a golden nugget. Marketing is just as equal to your identity. Your identity is marketing. Whether you're a front-facing brand, meaning it's you and everybody knows like, all right, that's their honey, that's their jam, like that's what it is. Or you're a non-face, it's just a brand like Nike, right? Everybody knows. What is Nike's slogan? Just do it. That was quick, right? Because that's what they're known for. And so it doesn't matter if you choose to have a front-facing brand or one that is just the symbol, right? Just like Prince. You know who it is. The most important thing to understand is what is the identity of that brand? Who is this? So then people are not confused, right? Because Nike, we know 100% it is marketed to athletic individuals, people who want to take action or inspire to just go and do it, right? So you have to ask yourself, what do I want to be known for? That's specifically your niche. Now, you'll have different individuals tell you, oh, you don't got a niche, you just got to go out there and you'll figure it out. That's true. But do you really want to take a couple of strolls down the block and back and back and back and turn your wheels? Or do you want to get it right from the very beginning as best as possible? Because you will shift, you will pivot, you will make differences. But is it making sense for your time and energy? So let me explain. Someone said this to me and I laughed one day and I was like, I got it. I got it from there. So if you know that potatoes become mashed or potatoes can be chopped up into small little pieces, which one do you want to do to save energy? That's a tricky question because my answer was it depends what type of potatoes you want. And they said exactly. So check this out. When you are marketing, you have to understand the following, not only who you are, but then who the consumer is. You have to know them like the back of your hand. Is your consumer somebody that wants luxury, that wants an item that is few and far achievable to everybody, or they want something that's just distinguished just for them and whoever it might be? Is your consumer only women? Is it only women with babies and children in a family? Is your specific audience somebody that actually sees themselves with what it is that you are marketing in yourself or your brand? Do they feel represented, right? So I want you to think, right? All of you ladies, what is it that you consume? Think of the top two things that you absolutely love. That if I said you only get to pick two things and that is it, that's all you get to keep, you're like, I'm keeping this. Okay? Either because of its utility, its look, what it represents, or what it gives you, or the feeling of it. Think of those two items and then think of what those specific brands or products do. A lot of people would say, my phone. A lot of people would say that. And you fall into two categories. You're either an Android user or you're an iOS Apple user, right? Now, there's always the argument where people will say, oh, well, one's better than the other, and here's why. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's what do you feel with that specific brand? And I use that example for you to think about it. What does Apple sell? Ooh, I love that. Now, whether or not they sell exclusiveness, it's the feeling. You understood the assignment. They don't sell electronics or devices. They sold you a feeling. That's what you bought, and you continue to buy it. That is the point. And when you can understand that from a marketing perspective, as a woman, you're like, okay, I got this. Now, let's include the elements as a woman that I've learned also under the years that you can actually underutilize it or overutilize it. So let's go into that. A lot of women would say, well, I have these ideas and I have these feelings and I have this je ne sais quoi. I know this, but I don't know what it is and I don't know how to explain it. That's called intuition. You just know because you know, and that's it. And you don't know why, but later you're like, I was right. That's exactly what I thought. That's exactly what I felt. So if you want to lead from a place of intuition, you're embodying your femininity and your woman, but you also got to balance it. That's what I've learned. So here's what happens in marketing and sales as a woman. And you all are going to laugh, ladies, because you all have that friend, and maybe it's you, that is just woo all day, and it's just, my clients are going to come, but they take no action. They do nothing. And all they do is say, well, I'm working on it and I'm doing it and I'm going to get the help I need, but they take no action. But they are very much in their feminine and their intuition. They know things, but they don't take action. Then you have the complete opposite on this side, and she's a mover. She is a shaker. She does not still. She just moves and moves and moves and takes action. And sometimes she takes messy action. We all know that person or that friend. She takes messy action. And it hits because we all know someone like that. I was like that for a long time. I was just moving. I was like, let's move on this. And my team would be like, did you think it through? And I'm like, we'll figure it out. You build a parachute along the way down. Move. But then I learned that messy action bites you in the butt too. So here's the deal. Nobody ever, not even myself, can tell you like this much of this salt and this much of this pepper. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you to take a good hard look at yourself and ask yourself, who am I? Am I the woo-woo? I sit in thought and information and I just hoard information and, well, so-and-so said, but I don't take any action? Or am I the mover and the shaker, but I got a lot of messy action and then later I got to clean up? If you find yourself in any of those buckets, here's the answer. Find your own balance. Her balance may not be your balance. A lot of people will shove it down your throat and be like, this is exactly what you got to do. Go for it, but see if that recipe works for you. It probably won't. That's right. It does not. And that's what people don't want to do the work to actually do the deep digging. And so people will ask me actual actionable steps to be like, Z, what do I do? If I could recommend the number one thing for you to do with yourself is to take a good hard look and be honest with yourself of who you are. We don't get what we want. We get who we are as clients. We get who we are as partners, and we get lessons to show us who we are or who we say we are to test us. So if I say I have somebody that gives value and I honor honesty and professionalism and on timeness and punctuation and whatever it might be, am I myself delivering that? Am I? Okay, great. Do I want to partner with individuals that have opposite of me? Maybe. So the answer with sales and marketing is there's seasons. Just like a wardrobe that's like fall season. We're coming out with spring, right? Zeahlot just came out with her new trends. Okay, great. But what season are you in? You cannot take advice from someone that is not been in your season or isn't in your season currently. So for example, I don't have a newborn, but if I'm going to go get advice from Kelly and she just has a newborn and here's how she's doing her marketing, that's probably not the road for me. It might be in a few seasons. So if I want to plan ahead, I'm going to go talk to Kelly, right? So you want to get the advice from 3 people. You want to get the advice from someone who's going to be deeply honest with you but respectful, okay? That's the one that's going to tell you just like it is, whether you like it or not. Number 2, you're going to get the person that cheers you on, but tread lightly, because the person that's just going to cheer you on and be your cheerleader is not going to tell you absolute truth to be like, honey, this ain't quality yet. You got to still work on this, okay? And the third person is the person who's been where you're at. They're actually in it with you. They're in the trenches doing it with you, or they've already been there, done that, and they're like, let me tell you something. And that's what you call a mentor, okay? The coach is the one that's actually going to hold your hand and say, here, steps 1, 2, 3, check that out. I'll be here on the sidelines and let me know how it's going. But the mentor, that's a whole other level, because that mentor has been through it. They've experienced it, and they're going to tell you, listen, there's 2 roads, right? Wayne Dyer, there's 2 roads, there's 2 paths. You can take whichever one you want. But if you take this one, here's what you're going to see along the way: a scarecrow, a lion, and then you might meet the wizard. And on this road, it's a little bit more dangerous, but it'll get you there quick. What you want to do. They'll leave the door open for you to open it when you desire and when you want to walk through it. That's the beauty of a mentor. They're not going to tell you what to do. You're going to follow your own intuition, right? To mess around and find out. And that's the other piece of this recipe with sales and marketing, because I could sit here and tell you from here to Sunday, here's what you can do and try these recipes, which I will. I will give you concrete. But what I'm telling you is from the very beginning, your foundation has to be solid in knowing who you are, knowing who you're selling to, and why you're doing it. The why is very important as the third aspect here. If you don't know why you're doing it, you're going to lose hope at one point at another, okay? When you can't make payroll, I've been there. When you're like, I got a dime and I got to make this $100. Let me figure this out, okay? That's when you find out who you really are. And then the third one is, why am I here? And is that alignment with what I'm doing with my time and my energy and my God-given gifts? That is a really important piece that a lot of people are like, I'm just not feeling this anymore. Well, why not? Are you being shifted? Are you being lifted out of this experience for you to experience something else? Now, here's something important to understand. If we look at some of the top brands out there, let's take Ferrari. Ferrari right now is known as a luxury high-end brand for cars. Does anybody know in here what Ferrari actually started with? What did they actually sell before it was luxury cars? Refrigerators is one guess. Anybody else? What's that? No, that was still cars. They actually were tractors. They were agricultural equipment. Look at them now, the come up. And so I share that with you all because it's understanding the why. The why never changed for Ferrari, the gentleman that founded the company. It never changed. He wanted to innovate and change the world with mechanics. It never changed. And when I read that, I was like, "Ooh, that just blew my mind," because I was like, that's the type of mentality I desire. Started with the tractor and now we're here. See what I'm saying? Yeah. And that happens with a lot of different products. You just don't know it. Sharpie started that way, Apple started that way, and look now where we're at, right? Ask yourself if you want to be an innovator, you want to be a supporter, or any of the other. Labels are labels, but it's what feels best to you. Maybe right now you have a product and it has not sold. Maybe that's for a reason. Maybe it's because you're supposed to pivot and you're supposed to shift. Here's another great example for women. Who knows about Spanx? You know, the cute that you put under the Spanx, right? Does anybody know what she actually started with? She started with pantyhose. She started with pantyhose, and then she had a lot of door-to-door knocking over and over and over. And what happened over time is ladies like, look, these pantyhose are great, but this right here, this is what I'm wanting help with. And then bam. And she worked on it. She worked on it day and night. At the time she was married, her and her husband actually put everything they had down into that company, down to the last dime, that if that didn't work out, they would have lost their house. Fun fact, it doesn't matter if it's a product or if it's you. A lot of times it is you, like in my case. I found out over time, I thought I was selling psychotherapy. I thought I was selling tutoring services. I thought I was selling hair and makeup services because I did that for almost a decade. Then I just found out people were buying me. And then I realized a very important understanding. People don't buy a product, merchandise, or service. They buy you. You are the niche. That is sales and marketing. And how do you want to be bought and sold? How does that feel good to you, right? So when you sell something, you have to ask yourself, is this energetic transaction, is this energetic exchange, whatever it is you want to call it, does this feel good to me? A lot of women have the opposite problem where they're selling so much, but is it at their expense? Are they overextending themselves? I mentored a woman and she had this amazing business and she was a service-based business. And she said, Z, it's booming. I said, yes, but you don't see your kids. You just miss their important event. And then I had to see myself and I was like, do I want to follow that? Right? No, I don't. I want to align with women that say, this is what I value right now in my life. This is what I want. And this is where I want to get to. Right? And so there's another important point to ask yourself. We had something happen in history that had never happened before, which was COVID, right? COVID shifted a lot of things, but the number one thing that I saw is that everybody had to get honest with themselves about what it was and what it wasn't, right? And so here's what COVID did for me and why I'm sharing this about sales and marketing. For the longest time, I was doing sales. I'd go to places like this, I would be in person, I would network, and I would meet people. And then the world shut down during COVID, and I was like, whoa, 1/3 of my business was coming from networking events, meeting women, just exchanging energy. What do I do now? And then I had a beautiful moment where I was like, girl, we're not tripping here, because the other amount of my business was coming from online platforms such as directories. These are the 1, 2, 3 steps I'm going to give you today. Directories, social media, but also engagement and community online. And so here's what I'll share with you. And a lot of people that teach about finance will tell you, don't put everything into just one basket, right? Don't put all your eggs into there. You could do what you want. But here's what I learned. The diversity of that helped me understand what was my strongest strength for sales and marketing, but also what worked for my business. What works for my business may not work for your business as a woman selling something that I may not be selling. A lot of individuals have services or products that can only be sold in person. Only in person. A lot of times medical devices. The doctor has to see it, how it works, patient tries it, right? Other times when they've already built so much of a community and videos and whatnot that was done during COVID, you just ship it and mail it. So what I want to ask you is, think about the number one source of where you're selling your product, your service, okay? Okay. Once you have that in mind, ask yourself that if that was taken away, what would you have left? Would your second runner-up be able to still feed you, or would your third? And I've had hard lessons with this to learn it. Because then the other thing you have to consider is, if you're the brand face, if you are the main squeeze for your business and you remove yourself from it, what is left? Is there someone to come up after you and sell it? And maybe that's not it for you. Maybe you're the one that says, nope, this is my business and this is where it is and this is what I like. That's perfectly okay. But you have to outweigh the pros and the cons. I've seen both over the years, and I think both can flourish given if you have the right systems in place, the right implementation, and understanding from the very beginning, here's what I want at the end. That's what I didn't have clarity about because I didn't know what was possible. And here's the piece of this that I want to offer in vulnerability and transparency, that where I am today right now in my career, it's not even where I'm going to be or where I'm going. But here's what I thought to myself the other day. I had no idea what was possible. I had no idea that what I'm doing right now I could actually get paid for and do for my lifetime. So my mother and my father were immigrants to this country. They both came from Mexico. And I was first generation. I am first generation. And so the children I have that are born in this country will be the first to actually have parents that speak English and Spanish right from the jump. I remember helping my dad understand, what does this say and what does this say, when the mail came when I was 7 and 8 years old. I was the first at school to be like, what's a sandwich? I got this burrito and I got tacos. Like, what's this sandwich situation here? School lunch? What? My parents went to school in poverty. They were lucky if they had pencils. Like, what is this lunch situation? And so I'm sharing this with you because the biggest block you will ever have in sales and marketing is your mindset. It is 100% your mindset and your environment. And here's what people don't tell you. As much as it's lovely and important to understand the background and understanding what is it specifically that you want for your life, it's where did you come from and what parts of that you want to keep and which you want to bless and let go. One of those that I really had to look at was the 9 to 5 mentality that my parents had. They had it because of survival, but I also have to understand that was their reality. It doesn't have to be mine. But am I willing to become that person that is no longer the reality? Am I the person that's willing to understand this is the amount of sacrifice I'm going to have to do that looks different than my parents? So even though my mother and father, they worked, let me tell you, like 6 to 7 days a week, I even have the memory of my sisters and I being taken to an office that they were cleaning at night as a second job and putting me and my sister in the little table under so we could nap because we had school the next day. And that's because they didn't have any other way to put food on the table. I still remember that. And when I got older, I asked mom and I said, why? She said, because we had no other way. She goes, but you do. And that was the choice I had to make. Do I want to have a different struggle? So every single person that can identify as a woman of color, a woman that's a single mother, a woman that's the first in her family to say, I don't want to do that 9 to 5 forever. I want to have my own. She has to ask herself that question. What am I willing to sacrifice? Am I willing to sacrifice letting go of these people that are keeping me broke? Friends that keep you broke. Friends that say, oh, you're not going to do that, girl. Nah, that's not going to happen for you. Do you think JLo still talks to those ladies? She sure does not. Okay. And it hurts. It's so painful because you're shedding layers of yourself. I've gone through these layers of, do these individuals still serve and are aligned with the mission I have? It doesn't mean you got to be rude, doesn't mean you got to be mean or impolite or not graceful as a woman. It just means you got to see it with clarity. Just because they were your childhood friend don't mean they're going where you're going. So either you're going to help me in driving this car to success of what we feel is success, or you got to get off. You got to get out. Because I don't care if you're giving me gas money. If you're not helping with the mission, you got to go. And it's the hardest part of entrepreneurship that a lot of people struggle with, or even their partners. What I realize is the most important decision you will ever make as a woman is the partner you choose, because it will make or break you. You have no idea how many women that I've mentored that say, girl, I had a divorce, cleaned me out. Girl, I had babies with this man. And now instead of building an empire, I'm building out this room for my 3 kids. And I'm like, damn, that's a choice. And so what I'm sharing with you all is that the environment that you create, but most importantly, the environment you choose to keep, is what's keeping you stuck. So many people will try and read a book. So many people will be like, oh, but she said that. Look at yourself. Sit with yourself. Hire a psychotherapist. Hire a mentor. Hire a woman that's actually done what it is that you desire, with that understanding that you still got a mountain to climb. And we all have mountains that we're climbing in different seasons of our life. But do they understand where it is that you're going, right? The other thing to understand is, what do you do once you start doing the work, right? These are actual, tangible, actionable steps. They're just the hardest ones. Because I could sit here and tell you, put yourself on Yelp, put yourself on Google, get testimonials, ask your homegirl, to share about your product and your service. That's easy. The real work is you digging so deep that you're like, damn, that limiting belief that I can't have success and I can't have what I've built to sustain my lifestyle and my bills, that's the hardest part. There's been so many nights I've cried myself to sleep and I've had to ask myself, are you still in it? Are you still down to ride for yourself? Because if you don't have conviction in your own self, in your own capacity, why should other people stand behind you? 5 minutes before Dr. Martin Luther King gave his most famous speech, I Have a Dream, he changed it. That wasn't his original speech. And the only reason I know that is because I've been very much into copywriting. The message you read when you're about to buy something. In Vegas, when you're driving in and you see the messages, right? When you see dine at the luxury and the height of Vegas. I'm very much into the messaging and the wording. So Dr. Martin Luther King had a conversation with his wife, of all people, right? And she said, honey, let me ask you something. What do you want for this family as you go up there? Because you might die. They might shoot you. She said that to him, okay? And you know what he said to her? He said, I have a dream. And she goes, then that's it. His wife did that. His wife did that for him, right? And I'm sharing this with you because it's so powerful that every single person that's in the United States has either heard that speech, knows about it, or knows about this man, has created such impact. You want to ask yourself these things in sales and marketing. Do I want to create impact and do I want to create income? Here's what I've learned. A lot of people think it's an or situation. I create income or I create legacy or I don't create nothing. But you have the opportunity to create both, which is really, really cool. And so we have to ask ourselves, what examples of that do we have in the world right now where somebody has created impact and income and a legacy out of that? Let's take the tennis twins, right? The Williams. How amazing. Anybody watch the movie with their father where you show everything that the father went through to get those girls through it? I cried watching that movie, and here's what I learned. You might have individuals supporting your dream and your aspirations and your skills and your talent, but if you cannot have that for yourself, when the toughness comes in, it will not go anywhere. Nowhere, nowhere, nowhere at all, okay? And so when you ask yourself the following, income, what does that mean to me? Does that mean what I've seen in my community? Does that mean that just getting check by check? Or does that mean creating something that you've never seen before? That's been limiting beliefs that have constantly come up for me. I remember my parents saying to me, like, well, you got to choose between the shoes or the Pocahontas backpack for back to school. You don't get to have both. And I used to literally negotiate with my mom and be like, why I can't have both? I don't get it. And I was little, I was like 5. And she's like, because no. And I would negotiate my way. I'd be like, well, if we have 4 Sundays and daddy said I get this much for a Sunday, I think over time I could pay that off. And then my mom and dad would be like, well, there's interest. That's how the banks work. So I would do it. And then I'd have to learn discipline. A lot of people think that they lack knowledge. That's not true. People lack discipline. People lack being honest with themselves to say, actually, I will stick to that. So the harder you decide to do things, the better you will become as an entrepreneur as a whole, and people will see that in you. It's a conviction you have in yourself that is translated and transmuted to your customer. Do they know that this person's delivered before, right? Do I know that if this person says, hey, I'm going to promise you that I'm going to have that wedding cake at your wedding by this time and it's going to look gorgeous, you're going to have hope that they're actually going to do it. But when you deliver, they gain trust. And that trust can be transmuted to other clients down the road. Okay? So now let's talk a little bit about the impact part. So there are individuals in the world that are creating a great amount of income. And you hear about it all the time because this is what they try and sell entrepreneurs that haven't woken up. They're still in that, oh yeah, let me get that like 6 figures a month or whatnot, which is great. It's fantastic and it is possible. But is it aligned? Is it combined? Is it packaged with that impact part? You want to ask yourself, why was I born and why am I here? What am I meant to do? What is my soul called to do? What am I called to naturally, right? And that's the impact part. How can I translate that God-given gift into what I am imprinting into the world? What will be left after I'm gone? And even if we remove the ego part of it, of the me, it's what is left of that even after I'm gone. For example, Dr. Martin Luther King, he's been gone for years. He's got kids and kids and kids, but there's streets after him. There's parks named after him. There's centers for individuals that really need those resources that is named after him. It's not just because. It's because of the impact he created in the world. And that's the most important thing you want to ask yourself as a woman. What do you want to be known for? Why are you here? It's depth that you want to get into with yourself, deep conversations. One thing that's been difficult, and I've had to ask myself over time, why, is advocating for yourself and advocating for what you believe in as a woman. Because many times we're told to stay sweet and sit down. Stay sweet, just sit right there, be cute, be pretty, and then that's all. That's all you got to do. And I've learned that you have to learn how to advocate for yourself in a way that individuals will listen, which is the messaging, right? That falls into the messaging, marketing part of being a business owner and selling a product. Because then individuals will say, well, I know I need this. It's just how can I buy it, right? It makes it so much easier. And so we have to ask ourselves, what examples do we have in our communities? Individuals that look like me, individuals that have my background that have created this type of impact. And the pools get smaller and smaller and smaller when you start to niche down. Humans in general, they have a great amount of impact. Okay, let's take then just humans to women, smaller pool. Then women of color. Women of color with means that were not resourced growing up. Single mothers that are not resourced, women of color that have a DV background, domestic violence. See my point? It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the more you're able to see that if that woman could make it happen, you sure as hell can make it. There's no way that you could not make it if somebody with dire circumstance could do it. What's the difference? A lot of scientists, a lot of researchers have looked at their individuals and be like, how did this person make it? And this one just sat on their laurels and did nothing, right? There's a couple of things that they have found, and it's grit, it's dedication, it's discernment, and it's dedication. It's all of those, it's all the D's, okay? Overall, it's qualities that don't sway even when the waters get rough. How can you say that you're the greatest captain that ever lived if you haven't been through a storm? That's so hard for me to literally take in when I'm in the storm. When I'm crying and my mascara's rolling down, I can't make payroll, and I'm like, damn, what am I going to do? But then I have to remember I am who I am. I already have everything I need. And that's the mindset that you have to have as a woman. So you can have tactical, here's how to do it list. But if you are not yet the woman to take those and make it happen, it's going to go nowhere. So it's how do I become the woman that I know I already am built to use, that I have already been created in my greatness. I have already been created by greatness. How can I utilize that right now and channel that to do what it is that I'm needing to do? It always starts first with yourself and the mindset. Okay? So now, in knowing that it's the personal development, it's the inner healing that needs to be done, there's a very important distinction here. I've studied this recently to look at this. Why is it that some individuals heal and some individuals only do personal development? It's because one leads to the other, and some people do it backwards. So some people have personal development, and that's why they do so well in entrepreneurship. But then when you get to the question where it's like, but what legacy are you leaving? What impact do you have? There's crickets, right? But they have income. And then you have the other individuals that have done all the work in the healing, their childhood, their feeling unworthy, unloved, the betrayal, the abandonment, the am I worthy? And they've worked on that so deeply, and they have a lot of impact and a lot of wisdom. But can they show that they can make that happen in commerce and business? There's something missing in personal development. And so here's the key that I've realized, and here's the recipe. You got to have both. So here's healing, and here's personal development. And here's what I've learned. It's not you have to do it at the same time and at the same pace. You can do it like a jog, and you can intertwine them. But the key is to have a good balance of both. And a lot of individuals will ask me like, well, what's the main difference? Healing is understanding specifically inside you what it is that doesn't feel worthy to receive, whatever it might be, whether you feel abandoned, unworthy, betrayal, whatever it might be. And personal development is all the things that you know you got to work on that other people mirror for you. So when someone bothers you and someone does something, you have to ask yourself, is that something that I am now fully aware of, or is that something that I still need to work on? Is this triggering me because this is just a friendly reminder to work on myself, or is this a friendly reminder to understand that that's not the class I want to take anymore? I'm not in alignment. I'm not vibing with that frequency anymore. Someone saying that they're going to have a meeting with me and then they don't show up at all, no call, no show, that don't vibe with me no more. No, thank you. I am not rescheduling. I am not taking that anymore. Okay? That is having standards. So here's the last thing I'll leave you, ladies, in regards to this specific topic. I've also learned that there's a big difference between goals and standards. When you're asked and you're prompted by someone that might be leading you or asking you like, hey, like, what do you think I should do with this business? What do you think I should do with this and this and this? I think the most important question is not what you want to do, but who you are and what your standards are. Are you going to put up with this? I challenge you, ladies, to make a list of things you're putting up with right now. It could literally be the lid of the trash can that's been broken for the past year and you've been putting a bottle on it so it won't swerve open. That's putting up with something that you absolutely don't need to. Okay? What else are you putting up with? Are you putting up with people standing you up? Are you putting up with people that are showing up less than? Ask yourself, what are you willing to do and what you are not? That will give you more clarity into your business and why you're stuck than telling people what your goals are and what you want and what you're about to do. Period. If you don't have standards, that probably tells me you don't have boundaries either. Boundaries are the other piece of this, that it's here's where you are and here's where I begin. It doesn't mean that you're separate. We all intertwine and we're all connected, but boundaries are very clear. This is you and this is me. And that enmeshment part, that stickiness, that messiness, that's not what I'm about. No, thank you. Okay? And so here's a couple of tangible things I'd like to share with you today that absolutely will grow your business. There is nothing like having a sincere and honest testimonial from someone that believes in your product, your service, or you. A lot of people will tell me, and this is for beginners, and then I'll go into the grow and to the scale stage, okay? A lot of people that are in the grow stage will tell me, oh, well, I haven't sold anything yet. What do I do? And I'm like, well, are you a human? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, do you have integrity and morals and ethics? And do you show up and do what you say you're going to do when you volunteer? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, then have somebody write you a review. On Yelp, right now, if you go and you look me up, I have 200 plus reviews online that are 5-star. Let me tell you something. I volunteered at churches, community centers for years. And when they'd say like, honey, like we can't pay you, but we appreciate your time, I said, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Can you do me a favor? Can you go on Yelp and in Google and can you leave me a review as a speaker, as a motivational woman in business, speaking to others? They said, absolutely. I grew. And then people that were interested in buying my services were like, wow, you have some great reviews. And I was like, yeah, it brought me money. It was just seeds you had to plant. You know how many people plant seeds and are like, I need to see the plant today. Sorry, honey, that's not how it works. You can learn a lot about business through farmers because they know that the harvest ain't at the beginning of planting the seeds. It's the same thing in your business, and you have to understand that. So the seeds you plant today, you may not see for years. And then one day you get a check and you're like, what's going on? It's because you have now planted what you were about to harvest. Okay? And it's beautiful. This is the time of the year for you to see what brings harvest. You got to water it. You got to add the sunlight. You got to have the right soil. You got to have the right attitude. You got to have the right actions and the right mindset. Those are what you water your seeds with. Okay? The other thing I would highly, highly recommend is that you ask yourself, what are my beliefs? This has been tough work that I've done over the years with women, even for myself and for others. What do I believe? And a lot of people will be like, oh no, I have good beliefs. That's great. But are you aware of the beliefs that are not helping you right now? Some of the 3 top beliefs that women are not aware of that they have that is actually keeping them stuck in their business are the following. And it blows my mind because no matter what it is, they all fall into these 3 buckets. I am unworthy. Okay? I will be betrayed. I will be abandoned by whoever you choose to be. It could be a partner, a child, it could be a client, afraid that if they signed up, like, what if they want their money back? What if they want their money? What if this doesn't work out? Oh my gosh, am I worthy of this? Oh my God, I just got a client to pay what I actually wanted them to do. I've had those moments where I'm like, shit, I just got 10,000. I better show up. But then I have to remind myself real quick, I woke up a new woman. No, I am already worthy of this because I've done the work for it. And I have conviction about that because I got receipts, because I've done it for so many years. And I'm like, of course, now I just need to show up. I have arrived. Now, to say to you that I have arrived is always where you're going to be, no. There are days where you're like, I am less than, and you got to work through those beliefs. But the more conscious you are of those and you actually go like, well, dang, I do think I'm going to be abandoned in this venture because my dad wasn't around, because my mom wasn't around, because I was dropped off at my grandma's house. Everything that happened to us before we became an entrepreneur is what's going to get in the way if you don't get in front of it first. So here's what I'll tell you about this. You got to own your story or people are going to drag you with it. Own your story first, because when you own your story first, nobody else is going to drag you with it. So if somebody says, oh, did you know what she used to do before she was a powerhouse doing music? She used to be a stripper. We all know who that is, right? And you know what she said? Hell yeah, I was a stripper. And I got moves and I can sing. So now I'm the full package. And people loved her even more. So I actually became a fan of Cardi, not because of her music, because the woman she is. She stood in her power. She wasn't dragged by force. A woman who stands in her power is in her power no matter the circumstance. Instead of the press coming for her, they were like, can we do another one? Can we do another interview? And she got even more press and more exposure that way. Just a quick example, but it's the piece of her that I admire and I love that about her. Other pieces, I could either take it or leave it. But it's something to ask yourself, which women are you looking at to be like, damn, she stood in her story and she stood by it and she did not get dragged. There will always be a piece of your entrepreneurial journey where you're going to have to ask yourself, even if I did that and even if I made a mistake, am I willing to own it and stand in that ground? Right? Okay. The second actionable step I'm going to ask you to do is sincerely ask yourself, how long am I in this for? How long do I want to be in this for? It's a lesson I had to learn the hard way, to ask myself, how long do I want to be in this? Right? Do I want to be in this till I have kids, till after I have kids, till maybe I want to retire? What else do I want to do? What else is possible? And every single year that's been changing because I didn't know what was possible. I saw my parents both retire because they were 9 to 5s and they said, this is it. And then I said to myself, well, wait a minute. My daddy retired and then a year after, he died. He died. He didn't even get a full year of retirement to enjoy it. Do I want that experience? No. Let me tell you, coffee is not the only thing that will wake you up. Death will wake you up quick. Death, travel, and money will teach you who people are. But the most important thing that I learned above that in entrepreneurship is death, money, and travel will teach you who you are. And that's what I learned. What do I want at the end of the day to do with my time, my energy, and my God-given gifts? Okay. The third tangible thing that I will tell you to do right now is to very, very clearly ask yourself what type of investments you actually want to do, what type of investments you want to make, and what type of investments are you willing to have. When people hear the word investment as a female entrepreneur, they think, well, money, we talking about money? No, not just money. It is money, but it's also time, but it's also your resources. The number one resource that I used when I did not have a dime was the relationships I had with individuals that were willing to support me, but also understand, here's what I'm building. Do you want to add a brick? Do you want to help me carry? And this is what people very much underutilize, especially in communities of color, for entrepreneurship. They don't understand that when somebody says, well, I don't got a dime, I don't know what to do. Well, then you absolutely are not resourceful. You are not resourceful, because if you have a voice and you have advocacy and you have a mission and you have direction, people are going to follow you. They're going to know exactly who you are and they're like, I want a piece of that. Because people love to follow leaders, not because they are a leader, because they know how to follow, they know how to lead, they know how to do both. When somebody leads with conviction, you can understand what it is that they stand for. So in you understanding, how do I want to grow myself? How do I want to be known as a founder? If you're a business owner and you've built something, who are you? What do you stand for? And what is it that you've built? Can people get behind that, right? That is the most important thing to understand. So how do you do that work? You make a commitment to yourself, and this is the tangible step I'll ask you. Out of the 24 hours that we have in a day, how much time are you actually spending asking yourself these deeper questions? I almost guarantee you little to none, because it's the hardest work you'll actually do. It's not setting those meetings. They are important. It's not closing those deals. They are important. But it's, who am I? Why am I doing this? And what's the impact I am creating at a higher level? It's looking at a bird's eye view and pulling out to see the whole scenario, the whole scene, the beach, the park, the kids running around, and not just seeing just the granules of the sand. Okay? And so if I could give you any message today that is a takeaway for sales and marketing based off everything that I've shared today, is the following. You are your biggest problem. You are your biggest problem. You are your biggest setback. You are the biggest mind shift that you need to make. That is the number one thing in entrepreneurship. You are your niche, but you are also your biggest problem and your biggest solution. Number two, listen to your intuition and listen to yourself first. If you don't trust yourself, that's an even bigger problem. That's conversation's not even for right now. You need to trust yourself first with conviction that what you're doing with your impact and your messaging is what you want to stand behind. So that when other people come and stand behind you, you're like, let's go. And it's clear exactly what it is. If you're not clear about that, you need to ask yourself why. It's probably either you don't know who you are or you're having an identity shift. Identity shifts are normal. When you have a big life transition, it's important for you to understand that things will change. I practiced for 10 years as a psychotherapist, and then thereafter, I decided it just wasn't for me anymore. I wanted to serve in a different way. All right? So, all that being said, I want to thank you for your time today. And if at all possible, if we have some time left, I'd like to do some Q&A, some questions, anything at all that's come up for you ladies today, because the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your life. And that's important for you to understand that if you're not asking the right questions, how can you get the right answers that will guide you to your own light and your own direction? Mhm.
Thank you so much, Zeahlot.
Yeah, thank you.
I speak loudly anyway. First of all, thank you for your insight. One, I'd like to say it sounds very authentic. I listen to a lot of people that call themselves motivational speakers, and that's beautiful. But from the heart reaches the heart. So thank you. My question is, what was the hardest thing that you learned about you that you realized you had to change in order to succeed?
That what my parents had me experience in childhood is what I experienced, but not who I am. It was a hard lesson. And if I'm very deeply honest with you, my father dying was a really great opportunity for me to look at how I felt the moment he died, because I watched him die in the hospital and I was the only one in the room. And at that very moment, it was clear as day. We good. We good. I said everything I needed to say. He said everything, and we were clear. There was clear karma. There was clear energy. It was good. And the reason I share that is because a lot of people will stay in a space of, well, my mama did this and my daddy did this and my family did this. And it's the victim mentality in the here's what's happened to me versus life is happening for me. I struggle with it still. Like there's still some days where that beats me down, but mostly now I'm like, no, girlfriend, catch yourself before you wreck yourself, because you are in charge of your life. You are your own woman, and the woman that is in her power does not let what happened to her define who she is today. That was the hardest thing. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Mhm.
My question is more so pertaining to actually staying in the past. I'm in between like a corporate job and becoming this wonderful entrepreneur that I can see myself doing. But at the same time, I am presented with a lot of opportunities outside of that. How would you suggest really staying in the past and focus?
What makes you think that keeping what you have right now will allow you to stay on the path?
It really, I'm very money motivated when it comes down to it. So, and I'm an opportunist. Like, but I don't want that to be my defining character. I want to actually grow and have more. And I do see um, the success of the business being what it is, but there's just opportunities everywhere. Like, how do you take, like, know which opportunities to take and which ones to kind of pull back on and remain focused?
I love that question. So, really, here's what I'm hearing. And I love this because here's how my brain works. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever seen something and then you get to see behind the scenes of like what's actually happening inside. Like, in the front, you see a computer. In the back, you're like, oh, those are the cables. So, I'm going to grab you and put you inside of my brain. What you just asked, what I'm actually hearing is how do I grow discernment, not decision making? There's a difference. Decision making is here, discernment is here. So obviously we need both, because if you only come from this place of discernment, you're going to get hurt. And if you come only from here, you're going to be dry and stiff and really a jerk, emotionless and heartless. But the key here is to have a balance of both. So really the question is, have you grown your discernment, and how well are you doing with your decision making?
So, I mean, as far as decision making, I feel like I'm able to see the bigger picture and take on multiple things at one time. But at the same time, feel like I do at times have those blinders on, and it's something that she told me I need to be praying about frequently. So
Keep praying on it, and here's what I'll share with you. When I had to work on discernment, because I had to learn that from a faith perspective, and I was like, okay, what they mean, like I have good decision making, but what about my discernment? Discernment for me means I'm also looking at it through the perspective of faith versus fear. Fear feeds the ego, the I need this, I need this, I need this. And faith is you already have that. Now what? You said something so important. You said I'm money motivated. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'd like to offer you the opportunity and the invitation to see which bucket that falls into, fear or faith. Now, am I saying that you got to just head dive and not see, like, no, you have to pay your bills, but also understanding, is that the right opportunity for me to grow in faith with what I'm doing, with my mission, and is that in alignment?
really focusing on the purpose.
You got it. Exactly. That's what it is. Great question.
I do have a question for women in business. How does personal development influence the trajectory of
Yeah, personal development is everything. You know, a lot of people will ask me, I've spent over $1 million in growing my business. And everybody's asking me, like, what's been the best investment you've ever made? Oh my gosh, was it sales? Was it copywriting? What was it? And I say yes to all of that. And the best investment I ever made is in myself. I actually spent like close to 10 years in my own therapy. There was times where I had to choose between doing my nails or paying my therapist. I chose my therapist. And I'm so glad I did, because then I didn't choose a baby daddy that was going to leave me with the baby and no daddy. Okay. And that's going to hit your business. So many people are like, how did I get here? Well, honey, let's take a look at your decision making. Let's look at that. So the best investment I have ever made has been my psychotherapy and the development, where I've had mentors, I've had coaches, I've had people that tell me, like, wake up and take a look at what's happening in the world. Do you want that, or do you want something new? Okay, great. What do you need to do for yourself? And I've spent so much money just in that personal development piece, but it's what's led me to where I am today. And now I get to share it with others, right? And somebody will say, like, Z, well, I don't have a dime to my name. But you know what? That tells me you're not resourceful. I've also been in that position, and I've also had access to services. This is the one time in the entire face of what we're going through as humanity where you can have low resources and still have access to YouTube and influencers and people who actually know what they're talking about online that you can listen to and study in multiple ways. To me, that just means that you don't want to do it. You don't have the motivation or the discernment or the discipline to keep with it. There's also resources, because I know I worked at an agency where if you make nothing, they can't refuse you services, but you must qualify for them. So all you have to do is show them receipts. Hey, listen, here's what I'm going through. I have a high level of this, and this symptom, and here's what they can offer you. Am I telling you it's the best there is out there? Of course not. But it's a place to start, so you could at least learn, what does that feel like for me, and what do I want moving forward for personal development or inner work or healing. Churches also have great resources. They'll have workshops, they'll have seminars, they'll have groupings where they ask you to have faith. Now, do all leaders in a church facility or a religious organization know how to lead from example and role modeling? No, but many do. So the key here in the game is to find what works for you and find quality. There are gems out there. I would know because I've worked with many of them. And even this place has many resources, because think about who it attracts, right? Like attracts like. So that's my answer to that. It's always personal development and healing. It's the best investment. Invest in you, you'll never go wrong. Other questions?
I actually have another one. How can females leverage their feminine energy to create positive influence in the leadership style of business?
Oh, I love this question. How can women leverage their femininity to create what it is that they're wanting in the world and in their business and anything else? This one's been a tough one for me as well. So I grew up in a home where my dad would say purple, and my mom would be like, I don't like that color for the curtains. And he'd go, okay, honey, whatever color you want, right? So my mom actually wore the pants in the family. When I grew up and I got older and I studied and I looked at different relationships, and I had to ask myself, why was that the dynamic they had? Well, here's the conclusion I came to. My mom came from a wounded space. So did my father. They meet. And then it's the war of whose needs are not being met. So then that placed my mother in a masculine energy and my father in a feminine energy in order for the relationship to move forward. Notice I'm not using the keywords healthy and I'm not using the keywords functional, right? So I share this because the environment we grow up in and the role modeling we see with the characters in the story is so important to who we become and who we embody and what we take after. So women specifically have two templates that they can take after. They can take after the maiden that's, oh, I can't open this, I can't move this, I can't do nothing for myself, right? Or she steps into the, I got this, I don't need no man, I got this, I'm gonna take care of myself and my babies, and this the full masculine, I got this. Neither is wrong, but neither are gonna work out for you if they're too much without balance. I had to learn this the hard way because I saw my mom and I'm like, that's how women should be. Women are gotta, this is the way it is, and we're gonna run with this, and this is how it's gonna be. And my mom took force, and my mom made more than my father over time because after time she chose a degree and my dad didn't. So then I had to look at that and ask myself, how do I want to show up in the world? And it's been after relationship, pain. It's been pain for me to be like, well, why didn't that work out with him? I got this, I got that, but men don't care about that. Men care, can I understand her? Can she understand me? Can I feel nurtured? And so here's what I'll share. I think that there's space for both in business for women to be in their masculine and be in their feminine. It always comes down to balance. But if a woman can understand that she doesn't need to have princess behavior and she can have queen behavior, that is the difference. So a lot of people are asking me like, well, what's princess? Princess is plain victim. Princess is, oh, I don't know what to do. You're a lost maiden. You are not a queen. A queen wouldn't stand around and be like, who's got the answer? She moves. She takes charge, but she takes charge from a place of power, not of force. So if she's forcing something, she's going to feel it. She's going to feel it in her business, in her relationships, with friendships, in different places. So I could go deeper into that, but ultimately is, am I in my place of power as a woman, or am I in my princess behavior having a tantrum because things didn't go my way, or, oh, darn, I lost $5,000 and that didn't work out? Well, get up, dust yourself off. And Aaliyah said, try again. So that's my best answer to that. Anyone else? No? All right, then that's where we're going to go ahead and end it. I appreciate you all. And same thing, I always ask that if you could support me by letting other women know if you felt anything today, because it's not what you think, it's not what you took with you, it's did you feel anything? Because as humans, it's the most beautiful gift we can have. Did you feel? And if you can all find me on Google and on Yelp, Zeahlot. Literally, you just type in my name, and if you could leave me a review, I'd very much appreciate it. And we also have a scan code that you can scan and just write one up. And if you feel extremely generous or gracious, I'd very much appreciate just a quick testimonial of like, girl, this is what I learned today. Here's what I heard. And what we do is we share with other women and say, listen, like, here's what happens when you show up for yourself. And my greatest thanks to you is that you did show up for yourself today, because time, money, and energy and sitting somewhere for an hour plus is not easy. Me driving out here is not easy, but we all agree to have this dedication. And streaming this hits other women. So if you know anybody else, like, girl, you got to hear this. Minute blah, 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 hit that and share it. Sharing is caring. So I appreciate your time. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. Do we have any extra time? Or we do?
What did you have in mind?
I don't know.
Just
We have 10 minutes? Yeah, yeah. Yeah? Okay, perfect.
We have
Does
meetings, but yeah, mix and.
Does anybody have time for a testimonial, or if you'd like to be featured in like what you learned today or what you heard? Yeah, you would? Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Hi, Tiff. Nice to meet you. Oh, she works here.
Yeah, well, Tiffany has her own company called InspireWorks HR, and she's consulting our small